Welcome back to IGN Live from Gamescom in Germany. Now we're going to take a look at the just announced new game from BioWare, Shadow Realms. Dallas is here to tell us all about it.
Absolutely.
You guys just announced this 2 days ago.
Just announced on Wednesday morning. We let fans actually play the game that afternoon. We had a big fan event where we invited anybody who'd been following our teaser trailers, the whole You've Been Chosen campaign.
Right.
They could show up, play the game, talk to us, hands-on, ask any questions they wanted, and feels good to be out there now.
How do you describe the game?
It is, at its core, it's a BioWare game, right? It is an RPG. It has all of those trappings of an RPG, but the thing that kind of separates us, the ways in which we are kind of changing the way that you're going to get this game delivered to you, is that the core of gameplay is a 4 versus 1 cooperative, mission-based gameplay system where 4 heroes are playing against one player-controlled Shadow Lord, who's essentially the next generation version of a dungeon master. They're controlling kind of the moment-to-moment dynamics of the game. They can possess creatures, summon creatures, they can drop traps and such. They can change the environment in a lot of ways. And so what that does for the players, for the heroes, is it provides kind of an ever-changing experience, something where it's surprising what happens every time because there's a real human being on the other side controlling what happens.
So is it like a full level? I guess what I'm asking is it's an environment that you progress through as a team to try to get to the end and fight the boss?
As I said, exactly. It's very much mission-based. Our target right now is something along the lines of 15 to 20-minute co-op experience. It's almost a dungeon crawl to some degree. What sets it apart in other ways is that we're actually set in the modern times. You wouldn't guess it just from the monsters there, but if you look at the characters, they're all wearing modern clothing.
Right.
So the setting of our game is very much you, me, other people here in the real world get pulled into this dark gothic realm of Embra. You're going to be battling in dungeons there, but you're also going to be battling the Shadow Legions when they come to Earth. So we're building levels that all take place in modern Earth as well. When they're in the dungeon, when they're in the realm, as we're calling them, they will be fighting against all sorts of enemies that spawn in there, but also against the Shadow Lord himself. So anytime you see someone running around with a blue glow over their head, that's actually a Shadow Lord. They possess the creatures, and then they have all of those creatures' special abilities. But because it's a real person, you know that they're going to be behaving totally differently, very unpredictably, and making it a different kind of gameplay experience each time.
So we're seeing all the heroes doing battle here, and at the same time, the Shadow Lord is doing what?
So the Shadow Lord is attempting to thwart them, right? The heroes are getting these big story missions that take place in sort of a solo instance. This is where all that BioWare stuff takes place. You have conversations with people, you get all this choice, you can flirt, you can have romance, you have betrayals, everything you expect from a BioWare story RPG. But then you're given a mission, and in this case, we're showing footage from an area called the Heretic Fortress. One of the missions is, you're told the Shadow Legions are opening a portal at the bottom of the Heretic Fortress. You need to fight your way down there and close the portal. The job of the Shadow Lord is to thwart you. So the heroes are trying to make their way to the end. There is a big boss fight. If they succeed, they've completed the mission, they've completed the realm, they get XP, they get loot, they get gold, they get all the great stuff that you would expect from an RPG. The Shadow Lord is also an RPG character. It levels up. And so the person playing the Shadow Lord is attempting to stop you, attempting to wipe the entire party. And if they do so, then they get a little bonus to their XP, to their reward, etc. But then everybody is a persistent character. So over time, that assassin that we're looking at, she's going to get different abilities, different loadouts, different equipment. And so she'll play differently the next time. The Shadow Lord is no different. So each Shadow Lord that you play has a huge number of tactics and abilities that they've unlocked over time as they've progressed, and they have to kind of mix and match them in a kind of limited way in one given realm. So today, you might run against someone who specializes in traps, spike traps like that. Tomorrow, you might run into someone, you might even be playing the same realm, for example, and instead of doing traps, they're all about summoning and possession. And so they'll have a lot of different creatures that they can summon in an instant and play as to change the way that the whole battle goes out for them.
Now the heroes, are they different classes?
Yeah, so we have, we've announced 6 classes that the heroes can follow. They fit fairly into kind of standard archetypes of fantasy game or RPG game. There's a warrior, there's a wizard, there's a cleric. But each one of them has a very, very broad progression. So you can spec one way and say, I'm very much a person who likes to do a lot of damage, so I'm going to go with DPS spec even within my warrior. But as you progress, you might also unlock all of the abilities, all of the actives, the passives, and the equipment for a very tanky spec. And we actually allow you, every once in a while you'll see something that looks kind of like a gem they're all putting their hands on. Those are checkpoints. As you progress through a realm, when you run into a checkpoint, all of the heroes will actually have the ability to respec. They can say, oh gosh, I didn't know that the Shadow Lord I was going up against was going to play in this way. Let's change the party makeup. And so I was a DPS warrior, I'm going to a tank warrior. You were a direct healing cleric, you're going to go more to a party healing cleric. The same is actually true, however, for the Shadow Lord. When they hit a checkpoint, they get to make a choice of what their next ability is going to be, because the difficulty of the Shadow Lord sort of ramps up as you go through the realm. They start with just one ability, but they get their second, their third, and their fourth ability as they go along, and you have no idea what they're going to pick. You have no idea what their total choice package is because you don't know what they've unlocked. So each time it's a surprise. So the big glowy blue guy, that is an elite monster. Some of them will actually just spawn within the realm itself. There's actually a lot of randomness just to the realms, apart from this whole Shadow Lord aspect. Each room has a bunch of dynamic aspects to it. What spawns, where they spawn. There are sometimes hidden hazards and traps within the level, doors that do and don't open, secret doors, destructible walls. That's one of the random elements, but the Shadow Lord actually gets to choose the bestiary. So if you like playing with the Fallen Warriors, those are the sort of zombie-looking guys you see there. If you like playing with the Hobgoblins, which you might see come into this area, the little short guys, those are very quick, very fast, hard to hit, slippery swarmers. You get to choose that at the beginning of the mission. And then you also have the ones you can summon on demand. So that big Bane Wolf was the one that was glowing blue earlier. Some of them might spawn on the level. You might have actually chosen that as an elite that you also can spawn at will. And it's a sort of a tactical thing. You think, right now is a great time to pull out my Bane Wolf, and it'll take them on. That's one of those checkpoints there. One of the great abilities that people have been having a lot of fun with as they played here at Gamescom, the version of the Shadow Lord we're allowing people to play with has a doppelganger ability. So he spawns, and he looks exactly like someone in the party. You have no idea that it's the Shadow Lord. He doesn't even have that blue glow over his head, and so he can run right along next to you. He can use the quick chat and say, hey, follow me. And so you might follow him, and he can bait you into a trap that he's already laid before.
So we're playing as the Shadow Lord now.
Right, so this is from the Shadow Lord's perspective. He's possessed one of the Fallen Warriors there. You can rush ahead of people. He can place traps. I think there's sort of a gold thing off to the side. Those are the hazards that kind of randomly spawn in the level. He's setting those up to be triggered now when a hero runs across them. But since he's out of, oh, he just dropped a bomb as well. But here he's possessed a creature, and he is inside this Bane Wolf. He has access to all of their abilities. They have a couple special abilities, being an elite. But when he gets to the final fight, the boss fight, he'll have 4 different special abilities, very much like one of the heroes. And as I said, you'll see a lot of emergent gameplay. Oh, there he is. He's being a doppelganger. So until he gets hit, he does not glow. But since they did damage, he's exposed. But he has all of the abilities of that wizard who he doppelganged or duplicated.
Sure.
So he'll be very, very powerful, and you want to focus on him and concentrate on him.
Can you customize your heroes?
You absolutely can. So over time, obviously it's an RPG, so we're going to let you collect all sorts of cool new gear. Another part of that whole we're in this modern world crossover is that these people are still very modern dress, right? But you're going to find pieces that are much more artifacts of the Gothic realm. You'll put on cool armor pieces that mix and match with modern stuff. So one thing we say is at some point in time you'll be a machine gun wizard. You might be a punk rock warlock because it rhymes and sounds cool. Like you're going to be able to kind of mix and match both how you look, but then more importantly, how your class plays.
Now what about the Shadow Lord? Can you customize him?
Absolutely. So it's the same sort of thing. Every player is going to have hero avatars as well as a Shadow Lord avatar, and each has their own progression. So as you progress as a Shadow Lord, you're going to be able to customize not just how you play, but also some of your look as well.
I see. So is your character, like when you jump in to play the game,
yeah,
you could pick any class you want, or Are you leveling up specific characters in a class that's persistent? How does it all work?
It is persistent. It is a persistent RPG. So,
did you have one character for each class?
Yes. If you want to play a new class, then you would start a new character. And so, I might start and play as a warrior for a while, level up, get a whole lot of options, and then I might find out that a lot of my friends think that playing as an assassin is more fun. So I would start another assassin character. But my Shadow Lord character, there's just one of. So you'll be progressing that through its entire progression tree.
Sure.
If you're very high level in any of them, you're going to have dozens of abilities that could be slotted into your fairly limited loadouts, because this is an action RPG. I'm not sure if you could sense that from watching the footage, but dodging is important. Only 1, 2, 3, and 4 are the number of special abilities that you have at any given time, and so that's kind of part of your customization choice. Is what do I want my actives to be during this match? What do I want my passives to be, and what do I want my gear to be? And that's how I'm going to play it. But you can then respec halfway through because your party's getting murdered.
You earn experience points from defeating enemies?
From doing anything you would do, right? So as you kill monsters, as you find treasure, as you explore, there's actually a scoreboard that pops at the end of a match. Even if you lose, you actually have been gaining score this whole time for all of the stuff you did. There's support XP, there is healing XP, there is damage soak XP. So depending on your performance, you're going to get some kind of bonus to your experience, to your gold, to your loot. So you always want to win, right? As the heroes, you want to get to the end, you want to defeat the final boss, you want to finish the mission. But even if you get wiped in the second room, you'll get bonus points because of your performance, and you've only been playing for 5 minutes, jump into another match, keep going. So it's not an all or nothing thing for either side.
Shadow Lord wins if he defeats all 4?
Right, so like many co-op games, there is, you have your health potions for the heroes. You also have these trauma kits that are essentially revives. If somebody gets knocked totally down to 0 hit points, there's a timer that appears above them. You have to run over and bring them back to life. If you run out of trauma kits, then the next time someone gets killed, they're out. And the Shadow Lord, that's their goal, is to tap everybody out. If you make it to a checkpoint, you can sometimes revive people who've fallen behind you. But generally speaking, if you're down for the count and no one revives you in time, you are hoping they make it to the next checkpoint, or they're down 3 players against a Shadow Lord, and then they're down 2 players against a Shadow Lord. We've seen some heroic players solo the Shadow Lord in the final fight, and everybody wins, and they're like, amazing. But because it's an action game, there's actually a skill element, and so as you progress, that's not going to be the only factor in matchmaking. There's also going to be a skill factor, sort of like under the hood rating system. So if you're a really good Shadow Lord, you might only be level 20. You might be going against level 30 heroes because you perform so well. Whereas I might be terrible at the game, but I've been playing for a very long time, so I'm level 50. I might be playing against level 40 guys because we want to make it actually a relatively even match in terms of skill and quality of play.
Will there be private matches?
Yeah, so the main game we want to be sort of in this live matchmaking system, but we certainly want to support custom matches. We haven't exactly hit on how we'll handle that in terms of progression. There are a number of games that do this, and you don't want to open that up to an exploitable state.
Sure.
And so we're going to make some alterations to the way you earn rewards there, the way you earn experience. But if you just want to play with you 4 and your other friend, if you want to play together and know who the Shadow Lord is, we'll let you do a custom match.
I see. What's this environment we're seeing here?
So this is actually the Shadow Realm. At the end of the Heretic Fortress, you have to pass through a portal and then fight the Demon King in the Shadow Realm, and that's how you kind of close the portal down. And so the way that particular level ends is you're running through this fortress castle, you come into this big dark cave, and then a portal opens on the ground, you jump through, and the final fight takes place in that sort of spooky, spectral Shadow Realm.
This is a pretty different game for BioWare. Where'd the whole impetus for this come from?
Well, what's interesting is our studio creative director is a guy named James Olin. And so if you're Googling right now, he was the lead designer on Baldur's Gate 2, Neverwinter, Knights of the Old Republic, Dragon Age, then Star Wars The Old Republic. He's been one of the lead designers kind of all along in BioWare's history. When Baldur's Gate and Neverwinter were being designed, a lot of the attempt there was to bring the tabletop gaming experience, sort of pen and paper RPG experience, into the digital realm. And a lot of that actually has been, I think, achieved quite effectively. But that sort of element of surprise, the element of a totally dynamic event, it's kind of been lost. The fact that there's a real dungeon master or a real game master, in our case, a Shadow Lord, who is controlling the moment-to-moment dynamics, essentially choreographing the action, making it very different every time, was I think really the core impetus. We also really like the co-op nature of pen and paper gaming, and so that's why 90% of what you're going to be doing in our game is going to be co-op. You get your story in a solo instance, you get all of that fun BioWare choice stuff, but then you're going to be playing most of the time in those realms where you're in that 4v1 co-op.
It looks very cool. Is there a release window for Shadow Realms?
So we're opening our alpha in the next month or two. That's why we're asking people to come to shadowrealms.com, sign up for the alpha. Our beta will be early next year, and we intend to launch it next year, end of next year. That's kind of the window that we're laying out there.
Cool. Thanks so much for coming by the show.
Well, thank you very much.
Awesome.
Appreciate it.
Very cool. Stay tuned. We'll be right back after these messages with more from IGN Live from Gamescom, brought to you by Dead Island 2.